What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me on another episode. Today is episode number 2 of the podcast interview with Matthew Monjaras from Impact Outdoors. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn it from red to gray, turn on the bell notifications. And if you're not subscribed or if you're not following us on Instagram, make sure you follow us on Instagram with the link below. Like I said, today is the second episode of the podcast I did with Matthew Monjaras. This will kind of pick up like halfway through the podcast to the point where I ended up losing internet service for a little bit. So if you guys haven't watched the first episode, make sure you click that link above and go watch that first one, and come back here and watch this one, so you guys have a little bit of context to what's going on. But thank you, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Okay, so in a lot less words, we'll basically say what we were getting at. That we're losing populations of birds, whether it be because of levels of toxicity in our water, because of agricultural runoff, because of scarcity of water as a resource. And I think California and New Mexico are both making decisions where the birds are last.
Right.
They're the last on the list when it comes to water. They're the last on the list when it comes to farming and all these other things. And so when I look at our WMAs in the middle Rio Grande Valley, which have been struggling, and allocated water often winds up, for economic gain. We have lots of different industries coming in that are using the water as well. It makes me wonder how many years our birds can show up to only partial habitat before overall bird populations are affected up and down the western coast.
Right. And that's another huge issue I wanted to bring up is there's another very large basin along the California and Oregon border. It's the Kalamath Basin. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. But it's another major flyway stop for migratory birds, and for the last 2 years it's been completely dry. So when these birds are traveling either from South America or from Alaska or Canada, wherever they're. But as I was saying, so with that Kalamath Basin being dry the last couple of years, that primary habitat and migration area is no longer available to those birds, and so they're either having to stop short in Oregon or travel further south into California. And the result in California is much the same as it is there. A lot of the wetlands that were there a couple of years ago are now dry, and so they're just having to travel further and further and further south, or stay further and further north, which is never good for any ecosystem, because once you take one aspect away, it'll affect the predation. I mean, obviously, you don't want that necessarily, but it's part of, go back to the Lion King and the circle of life. But that's the way that things in that ecosystem runs. And when you don't have that water and you don't have access to it because it's being allocated to different areas, then we're just, like you said, we're not worried about the birds, because we're worried about the farming and the agriculture and the water to the cities. And I mean, that's, like you said, that's not just a California thing. That's an entire Southwest issue that needs to be brought up more. And I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but making sure that people are aware that it's not just about those issues, that there are environmental impacts that are gonna be there for, I mean, the rest of our generation, if not our children's generation.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't know what the answer to that is.
I think a lot of it is involvement. We have to share why a bird is important.
Right.
If you're hungry and trying to make a living and working two jobs and at home and a single parent, conservation really always isn't on your mindset. It's a way, it's a perspective on life. It's recognizing all of these different components that make up this life that we get to live in. And
Right.
so if you're struggling day to day, it's really hard to think about water. Right now we're facing the issues with the Colorado River.
Yeah. That's another big one.
Arizona doesn't even want to look at like what that means to have 21% less water federally, allotted to them, Um, we want
And that's
to have golf courses in our pools, but
right.
we don't realize that it's making a huge impact. And I just read something today that said that the last 20 years in the Southwest have been the most arid years in 1,200 years.
I also just read. I want to say we probably read the same article because a majority of it was talking about the Colorado River and the issues that the Southwest is facing, and just I mean, like you said, what's making sure everybody's aware. Outside of that, I mean, when you're having to struggle and worry about where food's coming from or how you're going to pay your bills at the end of the month, like you said, you're not going to be worried about water allocation for a bird.
So the only thing that's really kept me up, because I keep asking myself, like, how much wild am I willing to lose, with Carter, my son, coming up on this earth? And I don't want to live in a state, or I don't want to live in an environment where Carter only has 20% of the wild that I have. And so when I see victories like what we just accomplished with our veteran focused wetlands workshop, it kind of kept me going, because I was watching the carbon kill off of the Pecos. I was watching the wild places that I like to visit on elk hunts disappear. I watched the Rio Grande River through Albuquerque go dry this year.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the San Juan River. I watched Pagosa, Durango, Dolores, all these southern New Mexico cities or towns that I normally fish in all summer long, put out, volunteer closures on the river because the river's so low and the water temps are so high, and a caught fish is a dead fish. And none of that had ever occurred in my lifetime yet. We have never seen a fire of this capacity run across New Mexico's landscape. I've never seen the Rio Grande through Albuquerque go dry. The only thing that's kind of kept me going is this assurance that what happened out at that pond that those veterans worked on this year is they just simply pushed the ball. They pushed the ball for Mother Nature, and seeing how vibrant that pond came back after 45 years of almost dormancy,
Mm-hmm.
to come back,
How quickly it came back too.
how quickly, right? So maybe the attitude of like all is lost and all the water is gone and no more resources isn't really it. We really need to find a medium. Okay, if our farmers are still getting allocated farm water, but our public lands are drying up, how do we work with more landowners to increase habitat so that it's a win-win?
Right.
Marietta needs that water for germination of her crops. Well, the birds need the water too. How do we find
a common ground?
Because if you have to create food, if you have to produce food, how do we do it so that we create edge habitat? How do we do it so that we give birds nesting opportunities? How do we do it so that our landowner has a new purpose in their property? It's not just alfalfa, or it's not just whatever their cash crop might be, but how is it that we make their location a spot on the map for the birds? Because our public lands, when I look at our reservoirs across the Southwest, when I look at the rivers across the Southwest, even our WMAs, unless it's a federal WMA, we're generally not seeing the amount of water that we should see inside of those WMAs.
Right. You're not seeing the resources and the money and the effort to drive those impacts. So
I think that's it. I think it's how do we start the conversation of a conservation minded approach to agriculture? Like how do we take these places that get a certain amount of water acreage a year and make it so that we increase habitat, but they still see significant yields? So I think that, what we're doing at Marietta's at the Rolling Hills Ranch, and it could be that portfolio image for what is possible with landowners when they work with a program that is really focused on community and the environment.
Right.
And how do we replicate that in other states? um I you got to find, this comes across my mind a lot, like, if we do this at Marietta's and we do this at Jack's and we do this at all these different properties and they really take off, that's still kind of small. Like, it's a big deal because we're restarting the infrastructure of the Pecos River after a carbon kill off. We're teaching youth about sustainability and stewardship and about hunting practices and mentorship and how to be community leaders. But how do we start working with some of our like state ran reservoirs to improve habitat? And this thought is always in my head. And I think what we have to do is we have to find conservation leaders that exist in those communities.
Right. We have the effort and the initiative needs to be there. And that's one of the big things that we're lacking is we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the effort. And then, I mean, when you get those two things together with a lack of knowledge and a lack of effort, then nothing can get done.
Yeah. So I think Impact's role in the future is going to be, of course, we're going to always give back to our veterans. Of course, we're always going to educate our youth because those things are a must. But Impact's impact, I think, in the future is going to find and seeking out these individuals who care about the environment strongly, who have been just waiting for maybe the help. Maybe they've been waiting for 35 vets to show up to help them for a 2-day project to get the ball rolling. Because what we saw this year is that if we just roll the ball, Mother Nature takes over. And so, if we could start a project at Blue Water where we're having issues with yet again water and habitat loss, if we could do something for the fishery and something for the birds at the same time, get the ball rolling, and then leave a significant leader in place who might be a ranger at that state park, who might be engaged, then they can take over with the ball we started rolling.
Right. But
And
without that little nudge forward, without that little initiative, then like we've been saying the entire time, without that, then we're just going to lead even more to an environment that isn't sustainable for anybody, whether it be farming or for wildlife. And that's not a route that any of us want to see. And I know in the future, that's not something we want for our children either.
no, and it's hard. It's like you sometimes just want to give up on it. But if we are the people talking about conservation, if we are the ones pushing the ball for Mother Nature to take over and we give up, then somebody who's working 2 jobs in a fast-paced lifestyle inside of a city definitely isn't ever going to care.
Right.
So what we've done this year with our sites of improvement, we've done 12 sites of improvement so far, mainly around the water retention of that pond location with our veterans. I see what those 12 sites are going to do for the birds this season, because when they show up and there's not 35 miles of available water anymore, and all of a sudden there's 9 acres, we're going to
straight there.
We're going to see more birds there. Yep. But that doesn't mean that those birds are for our taking. Like, we're going to have to really, really go into hunting that property with a conservation mindset with management, because those birds have never needed that pond more in my lifetime. And so it's hard, but we have a goal of 64 sites of improvement this year. We have a big wetlands workshop coming up in October. At the end of October, we partner with several different conservation groups, and they all come down and we work on sites of improvement there at the Rolling Hills Ranch. Impact Outdoors has a personal goal, or our goal over the next 18 months is 64 sites of marshland development and habitat improvement. We're looking a lot towards beaver ecology. We're seeing what our wetlands have done for filtration of that carbon-ridden water.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the images are like nuts between like the acequia, the Pecos, and then you see the pond. and the pond's water is crystal clear and has been, purified and everything else. So we're going to work a lot on wetlands and how they can purify agricultural runoff, as well as the excess amount of carbon that we're going to be seeing over the next few years.
Yep.
So we're doing a lot of marshland development for filtration before the water returns back to the Pecos. So we'll see if we can get through all 64 sites. We kind of set a big bar, but that's important.
And that's why we're here today. I want to know from you, what can people who see this and want to get involved in your area do. I'm going to put your information in the video description and everything, and I'll put it up on the screen here as well. That way, if they want to get in contact with you, but what can they do if they see this and they want to help you guys out reach that goal? How do they contact you, or what do they have to do to get involved?
Well, I'd like to first off say that we work with several groups that we're almost what I would classify as an anti-hunting group. But when they see what we do for conservation, when they see what we do for stewardship and education, it's kind of been a no-brainer for them to jump on and to try to partner with us and to work with us to do these improvements. So if you're not of a hunting background, that's not a requirement with Impact Outdoors. If you want to get engaged in conservation, all you have to do is send me an email. Follow me on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You could literally just give me a call and say, you know what, Matt, I saw this and I want to get involved with your improvement. The best thing is, it's not like we're talking about only one event a year.
Right.
We're running habitat improvements year round. I mean, we take a break for season. That's 106 days out of the year, but that still leaves us with, we have a big fall wetlands workshop that's going on. It's a 3-day wetlands workshop. In the spring, we're working on wheelchair bound access for pit blinds, a floating barge, cable pulley system. We're building a location for a wheelchair bound that is unmatched in the state of New Mexico. There's not another location present or will be present for some time that I know of, other than these locations that our veterans are working on for this serving veteran community. So email me, give me a call. All of our education is free, and it's all centered around family. We don't have an age restriction on what age your kids can be or that. I think as soon as they can walk around, or you can put them in a backpack, they should be engaged in conservation.
That's right. Yep.
And so all of our programs for our communities are free. We do a lot of community outreach. We do a lot of stuff for our acequia, which feeds our outdoor classrooms and our hunt habitats. So we work hand in hand with the acequias. We work hand in hand with landowners. Even if it's just a fishing derby, we have a fishing derby coming up this next month. Come out to a fishing derby, see what your kids think. Next thing you know, hopefully you're
at the next workshop.
Yeah, you're driving post into the ground and working on erosion control and creating dabbler habitat. Like it's not hard to get involved with us. It's free. We feed you.
Good food, I might add.
We do everything and anything we can because we don't have enough people who care about the environment, and to just have one event a year. Habitat and conservation needs to be
a continuous and
always there. And so, yeah, it's real easy to get involved with us. I mean, we're a grassroots organization. If your uncle, if you feel like he needs a hunt, all you got to do is email Matt, tell me about his years of service branch, obstacles he may be facing in the field, a little bit about himself,
and we'll get him out there.
We'll get him out there. There's no competitions or anything like that. No weekly, things. But really, we don't just want you for the hunt. We want you to be a conservation-minded leader in our communities. We want
develop that mindset and then continue
it all in. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we're very open and available to anybody who wants to reach out.
And I know again, I appreciate that, and I want to thank you again for everything that you're doing. It's obviously not going unnoticed, and I'm hoping with this talking to you here that if there's anything that I can do outside of coming to see you and helping out as much as possible, if I can get this out to as many people. I don't have a huge following, but if I can somehow get this out there so that somebody can see it, and even one person, if I can get one person to contact you and to help you, and then we can just turn that one person to two people and that two people to four people, then even if I can make that type of difference, then that's something I'm trying to do. And then obviously we've talked, and I'm hoping to get out there to help you guys more often. Being this
Yeah.
the couple state and a few thousand-mile difference, I'm working on it.
No, it means the world that you're willing to put your trust in my program to drive across state lines to go harvest some birds and know that it's going to be a great experience. That says a lot for anyone who's on the fence about maybe sending me that email. I really do. I really appreciate that. And as to the open door, an open door and a good handshake and showing up on time will get you a lot of places in this life.
Oh
And
yeah.
you never know. I mean, one tree burns a forest.
Mm-hmm.
And so you never know who you're going to meet and who's going to be there. And that I would love to see out for the spring wetlands workshop when we drop those pip lines into those islands and give that mobility impaired access to our veterans.
Right.
So yeah, we'll have to see, and maybe we'll be well enough off that someday I'll be able to fly you out here. You know.
I promise we'll get there at some point. With the if there's anything that I'm trying to do, I'm trying to raise the awareness of what you guys are doing, so that we can help not only develop what you're doing there in New Mexico, but use what you have, the mindset that you have as a blueprint for other areas, because what you're doing, like, I can't tell you enough, what you're doing is incredible, not only for the environment but for the veterans and for the youth. And again, if I can just bring that to one other person, then that's what I want to do. And I want to. I mean, I think we beat the conservation, as much as I don't want to say that we kind of beat the conservation mindset as a dead horse. But there was one thing that I did want to get to before we got done, and I want to know what got you into waterfowl hunting? What kind of brought you into having this outdoors mindset? And something I never got to ask you while I was out there, and I haven't talked to you about since. But I want to know, like I said, what got you into this mindset, and what got you into waterfowl hunting and being in the outdoors to begin with?
Well, growing up, the outdoors were really a place of shelter and you know I've been the type of individual who's lived like 30 lifetimes in my lifetime, and honestly I didn't there was a time in my life where I didn't think I was going to live past 26. But I went on one waterfowl hunt at a friend's property along the Animas River, just shy of the Colorado border. And the first time I watched birds come in, and that it really it stole my heart. I mean, to tell you the truth, I felt like there was like so much about life that I wasn't seeing. And I was, I mean, I'm partying, I'm young, I'm bouncing around, I'm backpacking everywhere. I've always had a love for fishing. Like some might say that I'm a religious fisherman of sorts. But the outdoors, when things weren't great at home, the outdoors were where I
Where
needed to
an
be.
escape.
Yeah. And so it was that. I think what it was is that when when you have to slow down and you have to be in the present, it really makes you reflect on the decisions you've made throughout that day or the last week. And so I was hungry. I was very hungry in college or in those younger years where I was like, living fast and doing different things. And so I was very hungry. So if if I could get some food for the week, that was great. I think it was more about like also trying new types of food.
Yep.
I had like got tired of just pork, chicken, and beef.
Ramen
Uh,
noodles.
yeah, and then all of a sudden I'm like, man, I got so many great ducks, and then it's like, man, that duck wasn't really that great, and it's like, why wasn't it that? Why wasn't that duck that great? Oh, because it eats fish, and it's been
Yeah.
eating fish for the last 2 weeks, and so like one thing led to another for this desire to find out everything and anything about the species I came across, and the duck blind made me slow down enough to recognize the things that were in front of me. And so yeah, I mean, I can't, I love the conservation, of course, and that's a big part of it because it is duck hunting, but really it was the culinary, it was the slowing down, it was seeing new parts of the state. I never really appreciated a marsh. I never knew what a marsh sounded like in the morning with so many different types of birds and noises and like watching the world wake up.
Right. And as a kid, I grew up on the coast of Maine, and so we were driving by estuaries and stuff like that all the time, and I just associated the wetlands and stuff like that with stink,
I know.
and
That's what I was gonna say. Stink. Yeah, like
yeah,
yeah, non-oxygen containing, muck,
yeah,
silt. Yeah,
and
that's smell.
and that has turned into like you said, I kind of have taken the same path after coming out of the military. I have a great family support system, but there was something missing. And I grew up being introduced through the outdoors through my father, who ended up passing away when I had just gotten out of high school. So I lost that. And I lost the love for the outdoors because I want to say because I lost him, and then I lost my way as a result, and then ended up joining the military, and that kind of set me on a track to where I am now. And then getting out of the military and being introduced to waterfowl hunting and getting back into the outdoors and the conservation, and it's like you said, it's opened my eyes to it's more than just being out there catching fish and being out there and shooting animals or harvesting ducks. It's not about that necessarily. It's about there's an experience that I had last year on a veterans hunt that California does, or started not last year, but the year before. That it's a veteran only dedicated weekend, and veterans go out there and they have access to the wetlands. They can do the refuge draw system, and I was out there by myself, half hour before shooting light, and it was quiet. There was
Yeah.
birds everywhere. That's all I could hear was birds, and it's just that surreal moment that, I mean, you're not the only thing there, you know what I mean? And it kind of takes you out of, it makes you realize the things that you're going through aren't as, it's on a grander scale at that point. And that's the being in the outdoors and being able to do things with groups like you guys. It kind of, it not only teaches me things, but it makes me realize that, not to take everything for granted, and there's more to it, you know what I mean? So just
Yeah, that's such a hard thing, right? Like when you try to put it into words, like what the outdoors mean to you, and like
yeah.
how, But what do they say that you treasure the things where your heart lies,
Hmm.
and so I think the biggest thing that I could say is that we really need to be the cheerleaders. We need to be the fighters. I these backcountry streams or those sloughs or all of those things need voices, and so I mean, the only way to really keep them is to share them,
Right.
and otherwise we're going to lose them. Like I lost my favorite place, right? I mean, maybe we can bring it back. I'd love to bring it back, but I think that the time is now for people to start speaking up about
Right.
what they
And,
care.
like I said, if we can establish, or if we can come to any agreement, it's that we have to raise the awareness, and by any means necessary, we have to be able to get out there. And this isn't just a you and me thing. This isn't just a small group of veterans. This has to be everybody, and we have to make sure that all waterfowl hunters, all fishermen, they have to have that conservation mindset in the back of their heads, and we have to be willing to put the time and put the effort into revitalizing and establishing these areas. Because if we don't, then like we've been discussing the entire time, we're not going to have that option. We're not going to be able to take our children. You're not going to be able to take Carter out. I'm not going to be able to take my girls out. We're not going to be able to enjoy the things that we're enjoying now, or the things that we enjoyed in the past, because we're not taking action. And that's something that I know I cannot say it enough. You are doing an amazing job out there, and like I said, it's not going unnoticed. And if we can raise awareness and get more people out there, that's what I'm looking for. So
Yeah, I also think, like, hold your group accountable. Hold your, if you belong to a national organization and you pay your yearly subscription or your yearly dues, and you go to your banquet and you purchase your gun raffle tickets and you do all those things, you need to ask your group, what are you doing for boots on the ground?
mhm.
Because so many people and so many groups that I come in contact with, like, want to say that they are conservation. Just by being a hunter, I know that conservation is hunting, but, like, for someone who enjoys the resource, we could sure do a lot more.
Right. With the amount of hunters that are out there, and the amount of
Yep.
time that we could put into it, we have to, like you said, we have to make people aware, and we have to do something about it. Because like you said, buying the tickets, buying the licenses, paying your taxes on those purchases, that's not enough. Because as you can see, not enough people are getting involved, and it's having a detrimental impact on the resource. So
Yeah. So I think take somebody hunting, but also, like, if conservation just was hunting, then the fate of the world would look a lot different.
right.
And so it's really a give and take. So if you're going to take somebody hunting, well, take them for a wetlands workshop with impact as well,
Hmm.
because you have to, it's a give and take. So I'm really glad that you were able to come out and see what we're working on. And if you hadn't have come out, then you wouldn't know any of the conservation efforts we're trying to push for here in New Mexico. And I hope people from my community that don't know about us yet, they look up Impact Outdoors, and I just want them to realize that you can see what 23 veteran individuals did
How big of an impact that just those 23 have had, and how we
on the
can
whole,
translate that.
Pecos. I
Right.
mean, we're talking about restoring a section of river that is gone, and it's because 23 individuals took time to just do something for the environment and somebody else.
Right.
So
Well, Matt, I want to say thank you again, as always. And again, I mean, I've said it multiple times throughout this talking to you, that your efforts aren't going unnoticed. And if there's anything I can do to raise awareness, this is how I'm trying to do it. So again, thank you. If you guys want to reach out to Matt, I will leave his email. I'll put a QR code up on the screen as well. If you guys would like to donate to Impact Outdoors New Mexico, please, any amount, 5, 10, even $1 will help aid in what Matt and the veterans and the youth of New Mexico are doing out there. So again, Matt, I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for talking to me again, and I look forward to coming out there and helping you guys on a wetlands workshop, and getting out there and talking more conservation, and sharing the love of the outdoors again.
well, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and I'll keep you up to date on all the stuff that we're doing throughout the year and everything else, and just the opportunity. And maybe we can have you out for a follow up when we drop those handicap pip lines into those islands.
Yeah, I'd love to be involved. So keep me updated. And again, I want to say thank you, and thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Adios.
Thanks, Matt. Well, everybody, hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Again, this is the first one that I've done on the channel, and hope you guys got something out of it. Learned a little bit of something about what's going on here in the Southwest as far as conservation and what's going on with the water issues that we've been having as far as allocating them for wildlife. And I mean, what we're having issues with water and the lakes and everything else like that that's going around here. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, if you want to find out more information about what Matt is doing or how to get a hold of him, I'll leave a link to his website down below. And again, I'll put a QR code up on the screen so you guys, if you can donate anything, $5, $10, whatever you can afford, donate to these guys because they're doing amazing work here in the Southwest. And again, thank you. Hope you guys enjoy the podcast. If you're not following us and you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn it from red to gray, turn those bell notifications, make sure you're following us on Instagram. Go follow them as well. I'll put their Instagram on the screen. And until next time, I hope you guys like this. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you on the next one.